we're going to our final talk and a real highlight that we saved for last, something that hopefully can inspire a lot of you to follow in her footsteps. So our final speaker for the day is Alina Vandenberghe. She's the founder of Chili Piper, and she has done one thing that very, very few people have accomplished, is starting a unicorn. And she's gonna share basically how she's been able to accomplish that. Her company has pulled off Chili Piper as a leading inbound conversion software platform. She's managed to power a lot of the very powerful B2B high growth revenue startups that you know, companies like Spotify, Airbnb, Twilio, Shopify, and many, many more companies are using their service. And she's been doing that from the US, but she's originally from Romania. She's like from, well, she says like from Transylvania. My geographical knowledge is not that good. I don't really know if like really like Transylvania extends that far, but in the US I think we'll let that count. So I ask you all to please give a very, very warm welcome to Alina Vandenberghe. Thank you so much for coming all the way from New York to visit us here in Cluj, in your home country. Thank you so much, Alina.
I'm here in Cluj to tell you my story. Like many other Romanians, I come from very modest means. My parents barely had the means to give us normal things like books or a second pair of shoes. And as a result, being here on stage for me is crazy. I would have never imagined of building something like I've done, coming from nothing. With this kind of growth, a unicorn, actually I'm curious, how many of you know how unicorns are assessed? All right, a few hands raised. I didn't know about it until maybe 3 years ago or so. Basically, the market decides how much your company is worth, and it depends on many factors, whether it's a public company or a private company, in our case, a private one, and they look at your revenue. Oh, the wrong slide. They look at your revenue and apply a multiple to it. They take, in our case, about $30 million, and they say you're worth 20 times that or 30 times that. And again, it depends on the industry that you're at, on your growth, on your numbers, on your customer acquisition costs, and some other variables. The way we got an assessment was through a financial transaction that got us close to $1 billion. That's how we are assessed as being a unicorn. There are very few companies that achieve that status in Romania. I think maybe 2 or 3 in the tech sector. And as I was putting these slides together, I was thinking of how to create a blueprint of the things that I've done when we were at 2 million or 3 million bootstrapping, or last year when we were close to 15 million. But then I realized that my journey is very different than your journey. If you here want to create also a unicorn, your path cannot be written by me, cannot be guided by me. My growth journey is very different from your growth journey. So instead I choose to speak about some things that have transformed my life and have managed to allow me to grow, especially my mindset, to be able to do what I've been able to do. The first lesson I've applied in high school. I actually have a colleague from high school here, and she can testify that's what happened. I started high school that's called Tudor Vianu in Bucharest. It's a technical high school. We learned programming. And when we started, I spent many, many, many weeks crying after every day that I went to school. I felt a complete imposter in that high school. I felt I did not belong to be there. I had the top Olympics in physics, the top Olympics in programming, the top Olympics in mathematics, and I felt like I could never get to that level. I would never be good enough. My mom was patient with me. She said, just try it, just one more day, one more day. Eventually, I've mustered enough courage to look at what they did. How were they different than the other kids around me? How were they different than me? What books did they read? What did they do at home? What newspaper did they read? How did they spend their time? And by asking a lot of questions, I understood. I slowly started imitating what they were doing. I slowly starting to see the books that they were seeing, to form the habits that they were forming. And I've never got as good as them. I'd never got a medal in programming. I never got a medal in physics. But I managed to get one of the highest grades when I graduated high school. I've learned that by just looking at what others are doing in the areas where I knew nothing about, there's a small chance that I can learn something. And I still apply the same rules today. For instance, right now, I know nothing about being a content creator. There are a lot of amazing people on Instagram and on TikTok creating all sorts of content that's entertaining, and that's an area that I'm learning right now. And if you look at my TikTok, you'll see very silly things, very poorly edited, but I'm going through the same growth process. I'm learning from the best how to improve that skill set. The second lesson is letting go of labels. This is a really big one. This is a big cultural shift, especially in Romania. In Romania, when you talk to someone, you'll hear a lot of complaining. This person did this thing, can you believe it? We should punish them. There's everything very black and white. And everybody who doesn't conform should be punished. That's how we grow up, that's how we're educated. In school, there are the kids who will study very well, and those that don't should be punished. It was a big paradigm shift for me to move away from that. And the best example that I can find is the label that I would often get on myself from others that would label me as a nerd. I was the nerd that never wanted to go out, never wanted to party, never wanted to go to parties. And that, in essence, meant that it was a bad thing. Only until recently, I realized that I just had other priorities. I had a stronger need to learn new things than I had to be socially connected. I had a stronger need to advance my skill sets in other departments and not of social communication. And when I read a book, it's called The Nonviolence Communication by Marshall Rosenberg, that I hope everybody can read, that I realized that I can only progress if I see the world in terms of needs. I no longer see the world as good or bad. I see the world of what do I need, what do others need, and can I make those needs met? The third lesson is probably my superpower. I don't care about what other people think of me. I really don't. I know that it's very hard to believe that because we live in a society where the value we place on others is given by our environment. I was told 1,000,000 times by my parents, Alina, don't wear stuff that shows your belly button. At school, Alina, don't wear makeup because you're not going to be seen well. And the society puts a lot of opinions about how we should act or how should we behave. And that forces us to do things that might not be in our best interest. I've only been able to fully let go of that once I understood that people's opinions are transitory. they're highly dependent on their environment. They're highly dependent on what they're going through. They're highly dependent on what's around them, what others are saying, and their opinions go up and down. Tomorrow they like guns, today they might not, and it really depends on how the environment shapes them. And I cannot find my value on how others' opinions change. I can only find my values inside of me. Only I can decide if I'm worthy. Only I can decide if I'm truly making an impact or not, based on the data that I have. That doesn't mean that I don't talk to people to understand how they think about things. Doesn't mean that I don't capture as much information to make an informed decision. But when I make that decision, I make the decision on how I feel about it. This is a big thing, because I make a lot of controversial decisions, and I have to make really big decisions that impact a large number of people and financially have an impact on society, but I've always been comfortable with them because at any point in time, I have the best intentions. This is my important lesson that I've also had to let go culturally from what I've been taught in Romania. In Romania, there's this strange paranoia, I don't know how to call it differently, that everybody's out there to screw you. Everybody's out there to get whatever you have. Everybody's there to take advantage of you. And I grew up thinking that way, and I grew up seeing everybody around me that way. So as you can imagine, when we decided in 2016 to make our company fully remote, no tracking of hours, no tracking of time, just trusting people, was like a free fall for me. It was a big moment where I had to let go of every preconceived ideas, because whatever you expect of people, they're just gonna match your expectation. If you expect them to slack, they're gonna slack. If you expect them to have a second job, they're gonna have a second job. The only strategy is to assume the best. Always to know that people are very inspired to have growth by themselves. They always want to achieve great things. They always want to have an impact. And if you expect that of them, they're gonna match your expectations. So far, that belief has proven correct. We're still a fully remote company with 260 employees, and my trust was only broken 3 times. This is big. And I'll tell you why. Because the 3 people that broke my trust have a very hard time in this day and age to find their next employer based on their reputation. Our reputation is always online, so if they're not to be trusted, that reputation follows them. So it's not on me, it's on them. That's my most important strategy within the company that I've built, is to assume that people are going to always want to be the best version of themselves, and they're always going to want to grow, and you just have to give them the tools, give them the means, expect the best, and just let them achieve that potential. The financial rewards are obviously very motivating, especially for someone who comes from literally nothing. I thought that money can buy you a lot of things, and as a result have a big impact on one's life. I started growing my career in corporate America, and 10 years into it, my salary was nothing of the sorts that I expected. My base salary was $300,000, and I thought that was the pinnacle of financial freedom. I could have bought anything. Yet, I realized that financial growth can only help you with the other things that matter. The other things that matter is the impact that you have on the people around you. That's the only thing that matters. Obviously, we build a company that makes economical sense, because otherwise you can't do the other things. You build a product that people love. You build a product that impacts the company that buy your product. That matters. But a lot more matters that you empower people to grow, that you empower people to reach their potential, that you help the communities around you to get to peace. We have a foundation, and we help a lot with that. I believe that us as a society, we have a lot of room to grow, because we're still quite violent in our beliefs, and I think that there's a lot of room to change. And when you make these goals that you have for yourself a lot bigger than yourself, well, I can tell you, I wake up every morning very, very excited with the opportunity to have an impact. It's a different story. That's it. Thank you.
Wow. Alina, thank you so much. I could truly feel that your speech was coming from your heart. So I was very inspired. So I kind of give a really big round of applause for this. I'm just mind blown. Do you want to take a few questions? Yes. All right, good. Can we please somebody have the back with a microphone? And then if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll have somebody come to you in a second. All right, we have somebody right up there. Sorry if I don't see everybody, but we have somebody up there. If we can have a microphone over there.
So you said you worked in corporate America, right? How big was the difference between Romania and America back then? And how do you think this helped you grow and evolve as a person?
The biggest difference that I observed was people's confidence. Everybody around me was extremely confident in themselves, because that's how the education system in America works. Everybody's very encouraged to grow that skill set. And as a result, I felt that everybody was a lot better than me at everything else. So it was very intimidating, for sure.
Thank you. And just one more question. On Thursday, I'll finally manage to register my first business, my first startup. What would be the top advice you could give me or someone else, someone young who wants to start their own business?
The first step that I took to make sure that the path that I'm on is viable was to get people right there before I had a product, write a contract, and make a promise, at least financially, that they're going to pay for it once it's done, before I had a product. And I did a lot of things very manual, not automatic. I just did a lot of things myself. I did the design myself, some coding, some sales, support, you name it. There was nothing I wouldn't do. And it makes a difference when you know that you have clients that are ready to pay for that effort, and you keep growing and growing and growing the number of votes of confidence for potential clients.
Thank you very much.
All right, we have a question over there. Oh, over there.
Hi, Alina. I'm a female founder myself, and I wanted to ask you, so we are actually kind of famous for the women in tech here in Southeast Europe, in Romania and also Bulgaria, but we don't really have many women who are founders. So how do you think we can change that? And the next question would be, do you plan yourself at some point to invest probably in startups which are led by women?
I feel it's very important to give an example and serve myself an example and share as much as I can from my experiences. Growing up, I never saw that example in other people. There was nobody I could have emulated, especially since I'm very atypical. I am a nerd. I am kind, and kindness doesn't really go with business. At least that's how I thought at that time. I'm very soft-spoken as well. So just giving myself as an example, I just hope I can encourage more female representation. As for investment, I feel like all my time is spent on the investment that I think has the highest returns for me, where I can have the biggest impact, where I would feel that my contribution is less crucial to the success of the company, I would probably consider it, but right now I know nothing about investment, zero.
All right. Well, we definitely hope as your company progresses and as it grows to the next stage, at some point in time of your life, it'll free up more of your time that you can support the next generation also with investment. But the advice that you're giving is already very, very crucial and a fantastic example. All right, another question over there.
Hello. Since the company is 100% remote, are you currently working with freelancers? And if so, what is your experience with them as professionals?
We don't work with freelancers. We employ people with full contract. We're in 40 countries, very different cultures working together. And we're a special kind of company in that we assume full commitment because we give all commitment back. We really help the employees reach resources that they would have not had access to otherwise, coaches, and we also have a very generous stock package. We assume that everybody's going to be a millionaire when they vest their options. And because we give so much to our employees, we expect them to also help us build the company because it makes their options more valuable as well. And in addition, we look for some type of skill set that might allow, actually, do you have to my presentation?
Can we get the slides back, please? Sorry.
There's a QR code here where you can learn more about it, but and you can actually follow me on LinkedIn, send me messages. We feel like when you fire on all cylinders and you're really, really good at what you do, you also want to be surrounded by people that are really, really good and elevate you. So that's kind of, we are only a match for certain kind of people.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a question on the back. And I think we have one later over there. Yeah, we'll come to you right after that.
Hi, Alina. Sorry. I'm very glad to meet you because our company, Prime Dash, is a Chili Piper user. And yeah, we really need to take a photo because my partner from US leveraged you a lot when you had to choose which calendar to use or a system. I was mostly for Calendly, but Madhu said, no, man, we need to test this. You need to try this solution. It's awesome. It's much more better. So, yeah. My question is if you have to give one advice for a business owner or entrepreneur in tech, Romanian, that wants to go to the US market, what would be that only one advice?
I don't think I would have been able to build this company without being present in America, because there are a lot of subtleties that I would have not understood. And some people manage, it's just, I don't think I would have been able to. There's just something that is very hard to do, especially virtually. You're on Zoom with people and you see each other and you hear each other, but there's so much more context around that. The sounds, the smells, New York smells really bad, that make you understand the environment in which you're working with a lot deeper. So I think it's really hard to do it without being there. I think that would be my first advice.
All right, I think we had a gentleman over here somewhere. If we can get the microphone over there. And I do agree, the US is a special market, hard to understand without being there. So I think it's a very good advice. All right.
Hello. Thank you. That was a long way. Thank you, Alina, for your story. That was really touching. I have a quick question from different perspective, I would say, because you have a stellar portfolio of investors, so Tiger, Google, etc. So I'm just wondering, what was the biggest value they bring to your table to Chili Pepper, or there was no value, because there is also a scenario for that. And what would you expect, or what would you recommend what kind of support would you recommend for investors to support their portfolio companies?
So we bootstrapped until about 3 million in revenue without taking any investment. And I was really, really afraid of venture capital money for two reasons. I was afraid that they're going to force me to do things that I didn't want. And I also was afraid that they don't understand what I'm doing. And as a result, it's going to be a really tough conversation. When we found people that had very complementary skill set, that fully understood the market that we were in, it made a huge difference immediately because it allowed me to see some perspectives that I didn't understand before. It allowed me to scale a lot faster. I would have probably been, so now we're close to 30 million, I would have probably been still at 10 or so. So it accelerated our growth. It allowed me to see things that I wouldn't see otherwise. For me, it was a net positive. But it's really hard to find this combination of a special venture capitalist who understands your product, understands your market, has complementary skill set. It's like finding a needle in the haystack is really hard. And we did do a lot of search.
All right, final opportunity. So whoever wants to ask questions, we can take one or two more. I think we have this gentleman over here. Anybody else, just raise your hand now. If you have another question, we can take like one more after this. Okay, so we have like sold to these two gentlemen here.
Alina, thank you very much for your talk today. I have a question about the, let's say, the beginnings. So what was the first growth engine that you saw and you were very amazed by after you found it? The first, let's say, growth strategy that you did to
growing the company at the beginning?
Yeah, to grow. I mean, to grow, especially in marketing and sales.
I would say that marketing is probably my biggest weakness. I'm still learning every day, and every day I learn more. I feel like I know less. One of the biggest driver of revenues at the beginning was actually pretty silly, but very effective. We would go in person to events like that where our customer would be, and I would say, hey, do you have that problem? And if they would say that, yes, they have that problem, I would offer to explain them my solution. It's hard to do the same virtually. People pay less attention to you, whereas when you're in person, it's easier. And you get a lot of momentum by realizing that a lot of people have that problem, and it keeps you going. That was the biggest driver for growth at the beginning. Yeah, that was the technique where we got to 3 million, yeah. And a lot of sales myself, yeah.
Very, very impressive. Yeah, very impressive. I mean, it's like, it just requires a lot of grit and like, I mean, you described yourself like as like more shy, but it seems like in sales you're not shy.
I'm very shy when there's no goal of a discussion, but when I know exactly what I'm searching for in that particular discussion, then I'm not shy at all.
That's very good. All right.
Hello, Alina. Thank you for the space. It was amazing. I learned a lot of new things. My question for you is, how did you analyze the market at the beginning in order to find a product that actually responds to the needs of the market? Like, did you use any framework or did you do something specific in order to make the research?
I knew broadly where I wanted to make an impact. Actually, what motivated me to start was I was seeing a lot of money spent within corporations within enterprise software, and I saw that enterprise software really sucked. Like, it looked horrible, and I knew that I had the skill set to make it look better, and I knew that I had the understanding of how enterprises work to solve for their needs a lot better than most product designers and most product people, because in general, when you're really talented at product, when you're really talented at design, you gravitate towards consumer apps, because that's what you see and that's what you understand. You understand how people shop, or you understand how people behave on Instagram, whereas I had a very specific enterprise skill set and UX skill set, so I knew that that intersection was something that I wanted to do. I also understood very well revenue teams, so salespeople, because I was a salesperson myself, and I knew that their lives was not the easiest using this software. So I knew that there was something I wanted to search in that area. And because I constantly want to optimize things, that's how I think I want to optimize everything that I get in touch with. I wanted to optimize how revenue teams operated and how marketing teams operated, to work mathematical models, if you may, on how they can get better results and better conversions, and I stumbled upon a specific problem in that context. I know it's not a perfect, perfect process, but I looked how I operated and what I saw as a problem.
Thank you.
So I have like one very, very last question. Since you've like lived both here in Romania and in the States, what is your hope for the next generation of like Romanian entrepreneurs? What is like the one thing you wish that like would happen here in your home country?
I already see a lot of good things coming out. Even at this conference, I've met amazing people doing amazing things, and I am very, very excited about the potential. Especially in Romania, compared to other countries, I feel like they're very strong STEM education. So people are very well educated when it comes to mathematics and science. And as a result, people are a lot less likely to make a big difference in the tech sector. And I already see a lot of proof that that's already happening, and I'm super excited.
I'm glad that you're now, from the US perspective, see like all the positive developments happening in your home country. And I want to also really sincerely thank you for flying over all the way from New York. And from what I understand, you're flying also relatively soon back. So it's a big investment and time commitment you make here into like all the Romanian startup ecosystem to just come fly over, see us, and fly back. I know it's a long trip. And we weren't even able to serve your coffee before the talk, so you've done wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, my pleasure. I'm the one who's grateful.
Thank you.